Hello, friends of the world. Please allow me to call you my friends. This is how we address one another in the world today. And yes, here I am, Super Martin Versailles Martin, telling you the most intimate secrets of my life. And today, I want to share all these secrets with you. The main one is very important for me because I wear what is called dental prosthesis, or fake teeth, which is very difficult to manipulate. But don't give up and don't stop because just one thing or any shit on the way before I reach the final days of my life. Um, I am here at Starbucks Coffee, and I thank them all because for the great help, and I am very grateful with them. But mainly, I want to go to the topic of what I'm very concerned about, which is the process of composing music. Many teachers says that it's hard to teach music composing or music composition, but to me, I have a lecture for you to share with you, and please pay attention to it. Oh, but mainly, I want to tell you one thing very important. I communicate in English because it's the second language all around the world. And to me, it's very sad that being next to the United States, Mexicans really don't care about speaking English. They give the finger to the Americans, to the North Americans, whereas Japanese, Chinese people learn English in school since the very first years of their lives. And basically, that's the main tool to become a better person in the world. But now, let's go to the main point. I'm going to do a lecture to you all. I hope things are the way I expect. So this is a lecture about music composition, and I'll go fast because the memory of my iPhone is kind of short, and I hope this can help me to develop the message throughout the world because many uh, they get paid, many get paid, but to me, I don't care. We will die pretty soon, and our richness will stay here in the world in the hands of other peoples. With this, having said this, I want to tell you if you guys have seen those films where rich and poor are the main characters of the film, whereas the poor guy always fall in love with the richest woman in the film, but not only that, but the most smart, he's the smartest guy in the films. Well, that's me, the poorest guy in Mexico, but the smartest guy in Mexico, trying to bring up this country to a great level, a better level. Well, so here we go. The first important step in the study of harmony, that's of clarifying the purpose of such study. Much confusion existing today as to why we study musical theory and what we should expect to learn from it. In the present teaching experience, this confusion of outlook furnishes the obstacle to progress in all branches of musical theory. There are those who consider the studies in harmony, counterpoint, and fugue are the exclusive province of the intended composer. But if we reflect that theory, must realize that musical theory is not a set of directions for composing music. It is rather the collected and synthesized deductions gathered by observing the practice of composers over a long time. And in that end, it attempts to set forth what is or has been their common practice. It tells not how music will be written in the future, but how music has been written in the past. The result of such a definition of the true matter of musical theory are many and important. First of all, it is clear that this knowledge is indispensable to musicians in all fields of the art, whether they be composers, performers, conductors, critics, teachers, or musicologists. Indeed, a secure ground in theory is even more a necessity to musical scholar than to composer, since it forms the basis for any intelligent appreciations of individual styles of the past or present. On the other hand, the person gifted for creative musical composition is taking a serious risk in assuming that his genius is great enough to get along with a deep knowledge of the common practice of composers. Mastery of the technical or theoretical aspect of music should be carried out by him as a life's work running parallel to his creative activity but quite separate from it. In the one, he is following common practice, while in the other, he is responsible solely to the dictates of his own personal taste and urge for expression. In the specific field of harmony, we must first seek the answer to two questions. What are the harmonic materials commonly used by composers, and how have these materials been used? We cannot afford in the first stages of our study to become interested in the individual composer at the expense of concentration on establishing the norm of common will. Be clear to the investigation of the individual harmonic practices of composers of all periods, and especially to the scientific examination of the divergent practices noticeable in the 20th century. Historically, the period in which this common practice may be detected includes roughly the 18th and 19th centuries. During that time, there is surprisingly little changes in the harmonic materials used and in the manner of their use. The experimental period of the 20th century will appear far less revolutionary when the lines of development from the practice of other composers become clearer by familiarity with the music. As yet, however, one cannot define a 20th century common practice. Hence, the aim of these writings and teachings is to present as concisely as possible the harmonic common practice of composers of the 18th and 19th centuries. Rules are announced as observations reported without attempt at their justification on aesthetics grounds or as laws of nature. The written exercises should be performed as exemplifications of the common practice of the composers and not as efforts in creative composition. I believe that through these great principles, a prompt and logical grasp of the subject will be achieved. Having said this, I want you guys to be clear and define what is your specific field of music, because there are bunch and thousands of books of chords which are mainly for jazz players, but mainly those regular common chords are like discarded for a tool for you to continue developing your music compositionals. In my personal case, I am a heavy metal dude, which I have to read specific written music, but not copying them because that's against my personal status quo. Well, guys, my friends of